You probably didn't expect me to upload so soon, or maybe you did, maybe you didn't. Either way, something unexpected has come up in my life, and this might be the last video I upload here. I don't know when or if I'll be back. I can't go into details, so I just ask that you understand. I didn't want to leave things unfinished, so I uploaded this to properly close out what I started in part 5. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoy the video. An hour later, Anakin jolted awake. Wake up, future son-in-law. The matter cannot wait. He sat up quickly, blinking away the haze of sleep. What the hell? How did you even get here? You know what time it is? I swear, old man, if you're wasting my time. Before him stood the translucent form of a Force ghost Lord Kallig, the ancient Sith ancestor of Nox. The cruel witch is too busy plotting the demise of my flesh, Kallig intoned grimly. Anakin narrowed his eyes. You're talking about Darth Zash. Damn, I knew something was off with her. All right, talk what's going on, old man. Kallig nodded approvingly. Good. You are quick to perceive. Flesh of my flesh chose well. I have uncovered the true nature of Darth Zash's rituals inside the Dark Temple. The artifacts Nox collected for her were not for research or knowledge, they are for a ritual to steal her body. There is no doubt, Zash intends to harm her. Anakin stood, fully awake now, his muscles tensing. Rituals, hey? Explain. Kallig's voice grew colder. Zash praises Nox's strength, yet she fears it. The rituals are not for power, they are to defend her against the Force. Ask yourself, why would she need to protect herself from the Force unless she plans to use it against Nox? Anakin clenched his jaw, already piecing the scheme together. So she's planning to take over Nox's body. That explains her obsession with those relics. Have you warned Nox? I have, Kallig said regretfully. But she did not listen. I warned her not to enter the Dark Temple alone. I am too weak to help her now. You must intervene. Anakin grabbed his robes and strapped on his twin lightsabers. He left his Ravan mask on the bed. Sometimes Nox's stubbornness gets in the way. I trust she could win, but I won't leave anything to chance. Kallig's image flickered. Good. Let nothing be left to chance. That mistake is why I was betrayed. Save her. Preserve the bloodline. The ghost faded. Anakin sprinted through the corridors. In the hangar bay, R2-D2 beeped curiously as he passed. R2, follow me. Anakin called. R2 rolled after him. They reached the external fighter dock, where a starfighter was undergoing retrofitting. Anakin had recently installed a hyperdrive, and although untested, it was theoretically faster than the Fury. Behind him, C-3PO called out nervously. Master Skywalker. What's the hurry? No time to explain. Tell the crew I'll be back. With that, he launched into hyperspace. Inside the Fury, C-3PO's optics briefly glowed red. He slowly turned and began heading toward the holding cells. Inside the holding chamber, the Jedi Watch member shrieked. Ah! Stop! Please! C-3PO stood nearby, a long metal prod in his hands, wired directly into the security panel. Master Skywalker instructed me to clean the ship, 3PO said cheerily. And that's exactly what I am doing. I do apologize for the inconvenience. The voltage increased. The prisoner writhed. Aic. Kalani stepped into the room, optics narrowing. Unit C-3PO. What is the meaning of this? 3PO turned to him. Oh my, I was simply disinfecting the prisoner. A full cleaning. He looked rather contaminated. The master issued strict orders, no one interacts with the prisoner unless authorized. Oh, dear. My mistake. But the man looks dehydrated. Here, let me offer water. He pulled out a pressurized hose and sprayed the prisoner. It burns. What do you mean it burns? The water is cold. Kalani's tone sharpened. Out. Now. 3PO bowed clumsily. Of course. Let me clean his face before I go. He punched the Jedi in the nose with surprising force. The crunch of bone echoed. The prisoner slumped unconscious. There, sparkling. He waddled out. Meanwhile, Anakin soared through hyperspace. He tried to reach Nox via his communicator, but heavy interference blocked the signal likely from the Dark Temple. As he exited hyperspace, Dromund Kaas loomed ahead. Lightning danced across the atmosphere. He landed near the Dark Temple and bolted toward the dark stone entrance. The Force screamed warnings at him. Nox was inside. In danger. Just as he neared the gate, a cloaked figure stepped into his path. Anakin's boots skidded to a halt. Darth Sidious. Ah, young apprentice. It seems fate draws us to the same place. Anakin's eyes narrowed. I'm not your apprentice. I'm a Darth now. My master is Barriss. Now get out of my way. Sidious chuckled softly. Barriss, the fool who bites more than he can chew. No matter. I'm here to study, to grow. But we should talk. You see, my apprentice. I'm not your apprentice. We've both been sent back in time. You know this. But I know how this all ends. I know what lies ahead for Barriss. For Jadis. For Mar. Anakin said nothing, but his grip tightened on his sabers. Join me, Sidious continued, voice silk. I will complete your training. I have knowledge your master cannot even fathom. I know the secrets to cheat death. The power to save those you love. Anakin's voice dropped to a low growl. I don't care about Padme anymore. And I know you lied. You never had that power. Sidious' smile vanished. No matter. You are here to interfere with Darth Zash, aren't you? You fool. Her ritual is sensitive. If you interrupt now, the consequences for you and Nox could be disastrous. Anakin stepped forward and ignited both sabers, red and blue. Then let's see how good you are. Lightning forked through the dark skies of Dromund Kaas as torrential rain lashed down upon the obsidian peaks of the ancient Dark Temple. The air was thick with the stench of decay, sulfur, and burnt ozone. A veil of tension hung heavy, as though the Force itself recoiled in anticipation. Anakin Skywalker, no longer a Jedi, a Sith, strode forward, robes drenched, eyes smoldering. In one hand he carried his signature blue blade, ignited with righteous fury. In the other, a crimson saber. It glowed like blood, his duality manifest. Within the central chamber, lit by flickering braziers and the silent screams of trapped souls embedded in the stone, stood Darth Sidious. Not cloaked in the guise of Chancellor Palpatine. No. This was the true form of the Dark Lord of the Sith. Pale. Desiccated. Ancient and eternal. Yellow eyes gleamed beneath his shadowed hood. Skywalker. The word slithered from his lips like poison. You bring both sabers? How symbolic. The light, and the lie. Anakin's voice was sharp, resolute. I'm not here for philosophy. I'm here for you. A dry chuckle escaped Sidious as he descended the broken stairway of the altar, the echoes warping unnaturally through the Force. You've grown strong. Barriss has done well grooming you like a dog fed on scraps. But tell me, has he taught you to transcend? Lightning burst from his hands. Anakin crossed both sabers, absorbing the arc with a grunt. Sparks ricocheted around him, scorching the walls. The Force flared around them, twisting the air, ripping dust and stone from the floor. The clash began. Anakin surged forward, blue saber aimed high, red saber carving a path low. Sidious blurred inhumanly fast, spinning aside and hurling a wave of concussive Force energy. Anakin slid back, digging his boots into the floor, stone shattering beneath. He raised a hand, and the very air screamed as he called upon the light, flooding the room with blinding illumination. Sidious hissed. Still clinging to hope. Anakin's eyes glowed. No. I'm using everything. He thrust both hands out, one wreathed in blue flame, the other in raw lightning, hurling the duality of his soul into Sidious. The Dark Lord caught it. Held it. Absorbed it. And laughed. Good, very good. They collided again, blades shrieking against each other. Every strike Anakin delivered was laced with kinetic power and precision. Every parry Sidious made twisted time and space. The ancient stones groaned, sigils flared to life, the walls wept blood. Sidious vanished mid-parry and reappeared behind Anakin, claws extended. Anakin spun, caught the strike, and kicked the old Sith across the chamber with enough force to crater the wall. Sidious rose slowly. Blood dripped from his lip. Yes, yes. Let your anger rise. Let your doubt bloom. Only then will you see the truth. Anakin did not respond with words. He threw his saber like a spear, telekinetically guided. Sidious deflected it barely before the second saber was upon him. They dueled across the dark cathedral. Columns shattered. Corpses long dormant in tombs rose only to crumble again. Statues of forgotten Sith lords cracked and bled shadows. The Force shook. And neither held back. The torch-lit halls of the dark temple twisted like veins into the earth, a claustrophobic maze of echoing shadows and Sith scripture carved into obsidian walls. The Force here was thick, an ancient presence, suffocating and volatile. Lightning occasionally danced across the cracked ceiling, illuminating faded murals of long-dead lords locked in eternal conflict. Anakin charged forward, boots slamming against the stone as he followed Sidious deeper into the temple's bowels. Sparks leapt from his twin blades, one crimson, one blue, as they ignited with a screech of plasma. Behind him, the entrance rumbled closed, sealing them in the temple's core. Sidious moved with impossible speed, a flowing shadow in dark robes. The air around him crackled with the raw power of the dark side. As they entered a vast antechamber lined with statues of ancient Sith lords, he came to a stop atop a wide staircase and turned slowly. You presume to face me with your toys, Anakin? Sidious sneered, his voice low, guttural. You are not the first to stand here thinking they could defy their fate. But you might be the last. Anakin's eyes burned with focused fury. I don't need fate. I make my own destiny. I told you I'm not your apprentice. Sidious extended both hands. Force lightning of unmatched intensity burst from his fingertips, violet and blinding, illuminating the chamber like the fires of Mustafar. Anakin raised both lightsabers, forming an X to catch the blast, but the force of it hurled him back. He slammed into a stone pillar, cracking it with his spine, then rolled to his feet, hurling his lightsaber with a flick of the force. Sidious ducked under it with a predator's elegance. You still cling to the weapon of the Jedi, he growled, igniting his own blade, a crimson bolt that hissed to life. Anakin called his saber back to hand with the force, then leapt through the air, diving into a flurry of blows that rattled the room. The two titans clashed at the temple's heart, blades colliding with seismic violence. Every strike echoed with thunderous shockwaves. You hesitate. Sidious barked between parries, his ferocity unreal. The light still clings to you. You'll never reach your full power until you kill it. Anakin twisted his saber staff and channeled the force through his limbs. He summoned the light side to enhance his perception, movements blurring into afterimages. Then he dove into the dark, using force rage to multiply his strength. His strikes became near impossible to follow, hammering Sidious back, step by step. You're wrong, Anakin spat. The light is strength. The dark is will. I am both. Sidious' laugh echoed like a spectre. Foolish boy. With a shriek of power, Sidious hurled a dozen broken statues into the air using telekinesis. Anakin extended a hand and called upon force repulse, sending a shockwave that obliterated the debris mid-air. The wave caught Sidious and pushed him back, skidding across the stone floor. Your power is considerable, Sidious admitted as he rose. But you lack vision. With a gesture, the Dark Lord ripped open the Force nexus buried under the temple. The very foundation of the chamber quaked. Dark side energy poured into Sidious like a storm cloud swallowing a sun. His skin seemed to ripple, veins glowing with unnatural power. Anakin stepped back, sweat on his brow. He could feel it, the same presence he had once known in the Senate chamber, magnified tenfold. This is what true mastery looks like, Sidious declared. With a swipe, he sent a wave of dark side energy shaped like screaming faces. Anakin countered with a wall of light side energy, forming a protective aura reminiscent of Obi-Wan's defenses. The two energies clashed in the air, exploding with a flash of white. Then, Sidious vanished. Anakin's danger sense screamed. He pivoted just in time to deflect a lightsaber aimed for his spine. Sidious had used force speed and phase walk to teleport across the room. Their sabers clashed again, red against blue and red. Sparks danced, and the sound was deafening. Why fight me, Anakin? Sidious pressed between strikes. Join me. You would rule worlds. You could have everything the Jedi denied you. Power. Freedom. Immortality. Anakin's rage ignited, but so did clarity. He saw through the words, the lies. You offered me that once. And you lied to me. Never again. Their blades locked. Anakin twisted, ducked low, and unleashed a wave of force, blinding a burst of light that staggered Sidious. Without hesitation, he used force pull to yank Sidious into a flying knee strike, cracking the Sith's jaw. Sidious snarled and erupted with force scream, hurling Anakin into the air. As Anakin recovered mid-flight, he reached into the force, not just the dark, but the calm serenity of the light. He held both in balance, and his descent was controlled. They circled each other again. You've changed, Sidious growled. You're no longer the naive boy I manipulated. But it will not save you. Anakin smirked. You're right. I'm something far worse. Sidious attacked again, spinning into a whirlwind of saber strikes backed by force speed and augmented reflexes. Anakin fell into Sorcerer for defense, then countered with Gemso, slamming his blade against Sidious like an anvil. Every hit was like the tolling of a war drum. Then, they both leapt back, breathing heavily, surrounded by the ruined temple. Statues lay in ruins. Ancient symbols scorched. The floor cracked. Then, something shifted. Two new presences emerged from the far entrance, calm, powerful, familiar. Yoda. Obi-Wan. Anakin froze. Sidious' grin stretched. So, the Jedi sent ghosts of the past to try and save their fallen chosen one. How quaint. Yoda stepped forward, staff tapping the ground. End this madness, you must. The future, clouded already is. Obi-Wan's eyes met Anakin's. You don't have to walk this path. You can come back. The Force hasn't given up on you. Anakin clenched his fists. Conflict surged within him. Sidious raised his saber. Then let's finish this. Anakin turned his head slowly, eyes burning. Then we do it my way. And they charged Anakin against Obi-Wan and Yoda. Sidious against both Jedi. The Dark Temple trembled beneath the weight of destiny. Its ancient halls etched with forgotten runes and soaked in the dark essence of 1,000 Sith rituals resonated with unrelenting tension. Crimson energy cracked across the vaulted ceilings like veins in a bleeding sky. Thunder rolled in the Force. In the central chamber, four figures faced one another: Sidious, Anakin Skywalker, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Grand Master Yoda. Sidious' sardonic grin widened. His hood fell back, revealing eyes that burned with madness and power. So, the Council's lapdog and the senile dwarf arrived to challenge my designs. How quaint! Obi-Wan stepped forward, his blue saber igniting with a signature snap hiss. We came for Anakin. Not you. Yoda's eyes narrowed. Wrong you are, Sidious. End this we must, before more destruction follows. Anakin's expression was devoid of warmth. Cold. Detached. He looked at Obi-Wan, the man who once called him brother, and saw only a ghost of a past that was never real. I saw our fight, Obi-Wan, Anakin said suddenly, his voice low. I saw it in a vision on Mustafar. I was half burned. Screaming. You left me to die. Obi-Wan paled slightly. That never happened. I know, Anakin said. But it could have. And that's enough. Without another word, Anakin turned, aligning himself beside Sidious. Obi-Wan's eyes widened. You're choosing him. I'm choosing power, Anakin replied. And clarity. Sidious sneered. Then let us give them the clarity of death. A force explosion erupted from the Sith Lords. Sidious hurled lightning toward Yoda, while Anakin surged forward, twin sabers igniting in a crossguard blaze as he struck at Obi-Wan. The battle erupted like a hurricane. Sidious moved with frightening speed, red saber slashing through the air with the elegance of a predator. Yoda met him blow for blow, his green blade a flash of controlled light. Their clash was more than physical, it was a storm of ideology, a culmination of centuries of conflict between Sith and Jedi. Meanwhile, Anakin attacked Obi-Wan with brutal precision. He used both Form V and sudden bursts of Force-enhanced speed, a hybrid style fused with elements of his past and his dark transformation. His strikes were faster, harder, more fluid than ever before. Obi-Wan was forced into full sorsu, defending desperately. Every blow from Anakin sent shockwaves through the floor. Anakin, listen to me. Obi-Wan pleaded, barely ducking under a scything saber. Padme, what would she think? She means nothing to me now, Anakin said coldly. Don't insult her memory by using her against me. Sidious was laughing as he pressed Yoda back with a barrage of lightning. See how he rejects you all. You Jedi were fools to believe you could mold a god. Yoda grunted, flipping through the air and hurling a broken statue at Sidious using the Force. Sidious slashed it in half mid-flight. You mock, but truth you fear, Yoda said. Fall, the Sith always do. Then why am I still standing, little swamp rat? Sidious roared. Yoda summoned a cyclone of Force energy and flung it at the Sith Lord. Sidious was slammed into a stone wall, cracking it like glass, but within seconds, he erupted outward again, crimson power pulsing from every pore. Across the hall, Anakin kicked Obi-Wan back and held his sabers high. You taught me restraint. Now see where it led me. You're not yourself, Obi-Wan whispered. I can feel it. Anakin didn't reply. He hurled his lightsaber like a discus, guided by the Force. Obi-Wan ducked just in time. I am more myself than I've ever been. Their blades clashed again, sparks flying. Obi-Wan was bleeding, winded, but still fighting. Every parry grew slower. Yoda was likewise faltering, his breath ragged. Sidious loomed over him, lightning ready in both hands. Anakin landed a booted kick to Obi-Wan's chest, knocking him into a pile of rubble. I won't kill you today, Obi-Wan. But not because I care. I just do not have the time to end this now. Consider yourself fortunate. He walked away coldly. Yoda called out, Kenobi, retreat. Now. With a final blast of the Force, Yoda vanished into a cloud of mist, leaping from the temple's shattered skylight into the storm outside. Obi-Wan, bloodied and burned, gave Anakin one last look. I hope, one day, you find your soul again. He Force leapt after Yoda, vanishing into the storm. Silence fell. Sidious let out a ragged exhale. Well played, apprentice. Let the Jedi run. They are fools. Then the temperature shifted. The Force groaned. An unnatural ripple echoed through the temple. A tear in space blossomed open like an eye, and from it, emerged a figure cloaked in dark elegance and quiet apocalypse. Vitiate. He hovered just above the floor, feet never touching stone. All present felt it, the pressure of eternity. Sidious tensed. You. Vitiate's eyes studied him. You are not ready to challenge the one who shaped this empire's. Come, Sidious. There is much we must discuss. Before Sidious could speak, Vitiate extended a hand and both vanished in a sphere of imploding shadow. Anakin stood alone in the ruins. Vitiate's voice echoed from the void. In time, we shall meet again, Anakin Skywalker. The throne room extended conversation between Vitiate and Sidious. The grand chamber of the Dark Temple's heart, the throne of eternity, was vast, silent, and oppressive. Dim violet light spilled from massive, archaic braziers carved into screaming faces. The throne itself, obsidian and pulsing with dark currents of the Force, sat high above the polished floor like a god's perch, untouched by time. It radiated silence more powerful than a scream. Upon it sat Vitiate, the Sith, eternal calm, composed, unreadable. Before him, standing like a blade sheathed in silk, was Darth Sidious. Sidious clasped his hands behind his back, his black robes unmoving in the stagnant air. His golden eyes glittered with 1,000 unsaid truths. His mind raced behind the facade of deference. So this is the heart of his power. His throne. His sanctuary. An altar to a delusion. He did not kneel. Vitiate's voice broke the silence with dispassionate gravity. I do not appreciate you starting a fight in my temple. It's quite tiresome to clean up the errors of mortals. Sidious gave a shallow nod, eyes locked with the void-like stare of the being before him. He believes himself eternal. Unshackled. A god. But what is a god with no worshippers? No empire to shape, no will to impose? Just a parasite feeding off the fear of others. The Sith are the true pinnacle, the will to dominate, the art of betrayal, the fire of ambition. This thing perverts it all. He is not Sith. He is filth in robes. In his mind, he laughed, but outwardly, he only bowed his head, ever so slightly. I was unaware the temple remained sacred, my lord. Forgive the intrusion. Vitiate regarded him with calm amusement. A servant like you should be honored to stand in my presence. Not even the Dark Council earns that right so casually. But I was intrigued. News traveled from the unknown regions. A lone Sith Lord, eliminating the Jedi Order. Manipulating a galactic war from the shadows. Forging an empire only to lose it within a day. He paused. And turning the Chosen One, a curious feat indeed. Sidious' eyes narrowed just slightly. I only did what any true Sith would, my Emperor, he said, voice silk-wrapped poison. I am honored that such deeds merit your attention. Though I wonder why would one such as yourself, who claims eternity, take interest in a mere Darth? Vitiate's smile did not reach his eyes. You misunderstand. I have no interest in empires. Rule is a game for lesser minds, fleeting. Petty. I do not reign. I endure. I have existed longer than your lineage remembers, and I shall persist long after your ashes scatter in the void. You, Sidious, are a child playing emperor. Sidious smiled politely. But inside, the fire raged. I have no doubt I will eclipse you, Vitiate. You may bend reality, you may stretch time, but I know how the galaxy thinks. How it bleeds, hungers, prays. I've bent the wills of Jedi and Sith alike. I do not need immortality. I only need one moment of perfection. One decisive stroke. And I will carve your name from history when I make this galaxy mine truly and forever. Immortal, you say? Sidious replied, tone measured. Yet your body seems to rot. Deterioration suggests weakness. Or is this just one of many corpses you've worn? Vitiate laughed not with joy, but with amusement, as if Sidious were a child asking where thunder came from. You mistake me for your own fragile species. I do not end. Bodies are vessels. I am not constrained by them. I am not Sith. I am beyond Sith. A ripple of silence followed those words. The very walls of the throne room seemed to flinch. Sidious inclined his head, masking the rage boiling in his core. Not Sith. At least we agree on something, you deluded corpse jumper. I will make you kneel before the throne of a true Sith Emperor. Mine. And then, with my own hands, I will tear your essence apart and scatter it into the void where no one, not even time, remembers your name. You speak of endurance, Sidious said coolly. But for what purpose? To exist without ambition is no different from death. You sit upon a throne and do nothing with it. What are you, then, but a shadow clinging to dust? A flicker passed through Vitiate's gaze, not anger, but curiosity. I do not seek your validation. My vision spans the destruction of stars, the collapse of civilizations, and the rebirth of power beyond form. You chase control over mortals. I consume existence itself. The room grew colder. The torches dimmed. The force itself coiled inward like a dying breath. Sidious stood his ground, unblinking. This being is old, yes. Powerful. But blind. He thinks existing is the goal. How pathetically stagnant. I am the firestorm. The storm. The darkness that claims all. Let him wallow in eternity, I will rule it. Vitiate stood. The room darkened. His presence became oppressive, thick, stifling. Even Sidious, steeped in darkness, felt the weight of it press against his bones. You amuse me, Sidious, Vitiate said. Not wise enough to threaten me, not foolish enough to try. I have decided to let you remain, for now. Continue your schemes. Let the galaxy burn. It serves my purposes. He lifted his hand, fingers forming a gesture of casual dismissal. Be gone. In an instant, the force twisted. A tear in reality opened beneath Sidious' feet, smooth, soundless, perfect. With a blink, he was gone, ripped from the throne room and deposited back into the wastelands outside the temple. Silence returned. Vitiate sat again, fingers steepled. The chosen one will return. In time, all things of interest, come to me. Back to Anakin. Anakin emerged from the blast chamber of the dark temple, cloak torn and mind racing. The air crackled faintly from lingering force energy. He blinked rapidly, as if trying to clear the disorienting presence of Vitiate from his thoughts. What the hell was that? He muttered, glancing around at the shattered temple halls. Whatever it was, it'll have to wait. I have to find Nox before it's too late. Inside the ritual chamber moments earlier. The chamber was cavernous, echoing with ancient whispers bound to the obsidian walls. Crimson and violet energy pulsed faintly from archaic Sith glyphs that writhed like snakes in firelight. Nox stepped onto the cold stone floor, her boots clicking with defiance. She ascended the stairs deliberately, her crimson gaze fixed on the lone figure standing ahead with her back turned. Darth Zash, veiled in her hood, exuded a chilling stillness. Without turning, Zash spoke with smooth, practiced grace. Such marvelous power radiates from you now. Clear. Strong. You've truly come into your own, my apprentice. Nox narrowed her eyes, posture unwavering. I've arranged for you to receive the title of Lord of the Sith, Zash continued. I hope you realize what an honor and responsibility this is. As a Darth, I answer only to Darth Then Aden, who answers to the Dark Council. As a Lord, you are one step below me, and yet, you already tower above many. Nox's voice was sharp and confident. It's about time greatness got its due. Zash chuckled softly. Do not get ahead of yourself, apprentice. There is still the ritual to undergo. And I warn you, it may prove a trying experience. But once complete, you will be truly great. Truly powerful. Inside her mind, Nox reflected bitterly. The old ghost warned me. Lord Kallig sensed something off. But I've come too far to retreat now. And I won't drag Anakin into this, he's already dealing with enough. I'll handle this myself. Nox tilted her head slightly. You still haven't told me what the ritual actually does. Zash let the silence linger for a moment, tension rising, then turned slowly. I suppose the time has come, she murmured. First, there is something more pressing. A truth I've kept from you, not out of malice, but necessity. As her hands rose, Zash lowered her hood. Her face was a grotesque mockery of life, green and sunken, her skin sagging like parchment clinging to bone. Bright yellow eyes glowed like dying stars, and strands of once proud hair had turned ghost white. Nox blinked once, sharp and fast, catching herself from recoiling. What the hell, she muttered, jaw tight. Zash's tone grew almost wistful. Look at me, apprentice. I am sorry to have concealed this from you for so long, but it was such a pleasant vanity, to share in your youth. One I could not let go. Nox's expression hardened. Why are you showing me this now? Because, Zash said solemnly, this body is dying. My mind, my will, they remain intact. But flesh fades. I have maintained it with rituals and the dark arts, but I am running out of time. Nox clenched her hands behind her back, subtly drawing in the force. Her eyes sharpened. Too bad you can't just order a new one, she said flatly. Zash smiled, but it was the smile of a predator. But apprentice, that is exactly what I've done. The torches flared. Be prepared. As the ritual concludes, you will see me collapse. You will feel it begin to take effect. Do not resist, it will be over soon. This is what I have trained you for. Primed you for. From the beginning. Internally, Nox focused, trying to summon her power, but something pulled at her core. She's suppressing me, damn it. Her preparations weren't for show. She really planned this meeting down to the last variable. Nox took a half step forward. And what exactly is that? Zash's smile widened. Oh, come now. It's obvious. My body dies. Yours is new. Perfect. And soon, mine. We will accomplish so much, once I'm inside that lovely vessel of yours. Just hold still. With a sharp hiss of defiance, Nox ignited her lightsaber, the crimson blade illuminating the chamber like a warning flare. The hum resonated with the fury of Lord Kallig's lineage. Over. My dead body, Nox snarled. And even if you did fool me, you could never fool Anakin. He'd see right through you. Zash's eyes twinkled, a hint of mockery in her voice. Oh, I'm afraid you underestimate me, and overestimate him. Once I have your body, I'll have your memories. Your voice. Your instincts. He'll never suspect a thing until it's far too late. And I will enjoy studying him. Nox exploded into motion. Crimson light slashed towards Zash as she channeled the force around her, aiming for the dark heart of treachery. Zash extended her skeletal hands. Lightning danced from her fingertips, warping the air with shrieking arcs of purple energy. The chamber ignited in battle. The air crackled. The very walls of the chamber trembled with latent energy as Nox's lightsaber roared to life with a violent hiss. The red blade burned like vengeance itself, casting deep, warped shadows across the arcane runes etched into the ancient temple floor. Darth Zash, still smiling with rotted grace, did not flinch. Nox narrowed her gaze. Her fingers twitched with restrained fury. Her power was being suppressed subtle, like a faint pressure against the mind, a toxin in the bloodstream. Every time she reached inward to pull from the well of the force, something leached it away like a sponge absorbing water. She could still feel the dark side, but it was distant, faint. Whatever ritual Zash had employed was clever. Insidious. I see you've prepared well, Nox growled, adjusting her stance, angling her blade. Her mind raced. She couldn't brute force her way through this. Not with her power dampened. She'd need to be smarter. Faster. More vicious. Zash extended her withered hand, not with fear, but with arrogance. The yellow in her eyes gleamed like twin suns drowning in decay. Did you think I'd hand over my body to the whims of chance, apprentice? Your talent is real, yes. But you are still a child playing at godhood. I am the culmination of centuries of research. Knowledge bought with blood and sacrifice. Nox didn't answer. She lunged. Her blade came down in a savage arc, aimed to cleave through Zash's chest. But the Darth was quicker than she appeared. With a motion more akin to a ghost than a woman, Zash faded into mist, an illusion of herself. The blade passed through nothing. Nox twisted instinctively, feeling the air change behind her. Zash was already there, hurling a blast of concussive force energy into her back. It struck like a battering ram. Nox flew across the room, her body slamming into a column of cracked stone. Dust fell in sheets as the impact echoed like thunder. She gritted her teeth, tasting blood. She's fast. Faster than she should be. Damn that suppression field. Still standing. Zash purred mockingly. Good. I do so love a vessel with endurance. Nox pulled herself to her feet. Her grip on her saber tightened. She focused, filtering the force through narrowed channels, threading it like needles through her body. It was harder, like pushing power through sludge, but possible. She raised her free hand, fingers splaying open. Lightning! It came in a furious burst. Crackling arcs of purple-white fury leapt from her hand, streaking across the chamber towards Zash with murderous intent. Zash raised a warding hand, but not fast enough. The lightning struck her shoulder and chest, searing through her robes and eliciting a scream that was more rage than pain. Smoke coiled from her torso. Her yellow eyes burned with new venom. Ungrateful wench! Zash screeched. You dare raise your hand against your master? I'll raise more than that, Nox snapped, twirling her saber in a low guard. You wanted a body? I'll leave you needing a coffin. Zash snarled and lunged, drawing on ancient Sith techniques. Her nails grew into talons of shadow, ethereal claws that dripped with black ichor. She raked them toward Nox's face. Nox ducked, then rolled to the side, her saber slicing upward mid-roll. It scraped across Zash's ribs, tearing the cloth and burning into rotting flesh beneath. The stench was vile, charred corruption and alchemical decay. Zash retaliated with a pulse of dark energy, slamming into Nox's shoulder and driving her back again. Pain lanced through her, but she held the blade steady. Breathing hard, she realized the suppression field's rhythm. It pulsed. It wasn't constant. Every few seconds, there was a window small, barely half a breath, where her full power surged. I can time it. I can weaponize it. You should have surrendered, Nox, Zash hissed. I would have let you linger in my mind. You might have enjoyed eternity as a whisper. I'd rather be ash. The fight reignited. Zash hurled debris with her mind, chunks of stone, broken statues, ancient relics once sacred to the Dark Temple. Nox deflected one with her saber, sidestepped another, and dove through the third, letting the rebel strike the stone behind her. At the same moment, she kicked off the wall, saber first. She came down like a falling star, blade aimed for Zash's throat. The older Sith caught her with both hands, gripping her wrists with unnatural strength. Nox snarled and channeled lightning again right through her own blade. The electricity surged down the hilt, into Zash's hands. Zash shrieked, convulsing, her hands smoking, but she didn't let go. She countered with a scream of her own, and Nox felt a spike of agony drive into her mind. Mental attack. The walls seemed to melt. Her vision swam. The sound of screaming her own, others filled the chamber. Blood. Fire. Chains. No, break it, focus. Nox dug her mental claws into the force and pushed, sending a shockwave of kinetic energy outward in a brutal blast. Zash was thrown back, her body flipping in the air before she crashed into a row of broken statues. Nox fell to one knee, gasping, sweat beading on her brow. She's trying to crack my mind before she takes my body. Bastard! Zash crawled up, one hand dragging along the floor. Her face was a mess, half burned, one eye flickering between states of rot and youth. You won't win, she spat. You were always mine. Nox stood. Her hand raised again, lightning building. Not this time. The chamber trembled. Nox's lightsaber hissed to life, casting red brilliance across her determined features. She stood tense and centered, the swirling corruption in the room pressing down on her shoulders like a phantom weight. Darth Zash, now fully turned to face her, sneered, her hollowed cheeks stretching with an unnatural hunger, as the rot of her dying body whispered death through her every breath. You would raise your blade against me, apprentice? After everything I've taught you? After all I've given you? You didn't give me anything, Nox shot back, stepping lightly to the left, watching for the trap she was sure waited just beyond the force-suppressing field. I earned everything I have. And I'm not giving you this. She tightened her grip. The power suppression was more than a drain, it was like trying to shout through a vacuum. Her force connection wasn't gone, but it was being muffled, tangled in wards and etched sigils on the floor that pulsed in sickly purple glow. She could feel it now, runic sequences in the walls, timed to the rituals Zash had prepared. Zash's voice turned mocking. You always were prideful, like Kallig. It will be your undoing, just as it was his. You think this is a duel? You've already lost. That beautiful vessel is mine. With a sweeping gesture of her claw-like fingers, Zash called on the force. Lightning erupted from her palms, searing arcs of violet power hurled toward Nox with enough energy to rend durasteel. Nox rolled left, narrowly avoiding the full brunt of the blast. The lightning caught her cloak and ignited the hem. She tore it free, tossing it aside as she raised her hand in return. Her own fingers sparked with lightning, but it faltered halfway to her palm, distorted by the suppression field. Zash cackled. Oh yes, I planned for that. Every precaution. You think I'd risk everything on a gamble? No, apprentice. I've been preparing this for years. But Nox was no fool. Suppress the force. Mute the power. But not remove it. She focused inward, drawing her mind to her core. Breathe, center, channel. The force was more than power. It was intent. Focus. Will. She had learned under fire. Survived tombs, betrayal, assassination. She would not lose to a corpse in borrowed skin. Zash advanced with a speed unnatural for her decaying form, striking with a saber of her own, an elegant, curved hilt violet blade. Sparks exploded as red and purple clashed. The two women danced across the ritual chamber. Nox parried low, spun out, and slashed high, only to have Zash deflect with a burst of force push that sent Nox sprawling backwards into the base of the dais. Before she could recover, the lights flickered and Zash was on her. Clawed fingers lunged for Nox's face. Possession. Nox threw herself to the side, igniting a sudden burst of force, speed limited, but just enough to escape the attempt. She skidded behind a pillar, panting. She reached into her belt, pulled a thermal detonator, clicked the setting to stun pulse, and tossed it around the corner. Boom! The pulse shattered the delicate balance of the ritual symbols, distorting the suppression field. Nox felt it. The pressure eased. Her power surged forward. Not fully restored, but enough. Zash staggered back, smoke curling from her shoulders. Clever girl, she hissed. Nox stepped from cover, her saber pointed forward, and eyes glowing faintly. Round 2. She launched herself at Zash. Their blades met again with explosive force strikes, faster, more ferocious. Nox twisted her saber in a tight spin, swept low, then unleashed a force scream that cracked stone. Zash screamed as her ears bled, falling back, but answered with a clawed hand raised, pulling dark ichor from the floor that formed spectral tendrils. They lashed at Nox. She held her hand forward, summoning a shield of kinetic force, a wall that trembled under the lash of the spirits. But now she had an opening. She reached deep into the pain, into the weight of her ancestors, of Lord Kallig, of every ghost she had bested and let go. Lightning poured from her fingertips. Not graceful. Not elegant. Raw. Fractured. Relentless. The blue-white current struck Zash full in the chest, hurling her into the far wall with a crash. Dust and broken stone rained down. Zash clawed her way to her feet, robes burned, teeth exposed from a half-melted cheek. "I will have your body," she howled. Nox's reply was a second blast of lightning, then a jump saber poised to strike. Zash caught the blade with her own. They stood locked, faces inches apart, snarling. "Anakin will see through you," Nox growled. Zash laughed, blood bubbling from her lips. "He'll be too busy screaming in my lab." Nox head-butted her. Zash reeled. Nox summoned the full might of her will and snapped her fingers. A flash of telekinetic power hurled the shattered rebel at Zash, burying her momentarily. Nox dropped to one knee, gasping, smoke rising from her fingertips. It wasn't over. Crimson light from cracked Kyber lanterns cast eerie shadows across the walls of the ritual chamber. The air was heavy with sulfur and old magic, thick with the smell of burnt incense and ozone. The very stones beneath Nox's boots hummed with suppressed force energy, twisted by Zash's arcane preparations. Each step she took felt like wading through invisible sludge, her connection to the force dampened as if someone had placed a shroud over her mind. But Nox was no ordinary acolyte anymore. She was the heir to a dark legacy, Lord Kallig's chosen successor, and she would not be usurped like some naive fool. Her crimson blade crackled in defiance. Zash raised her hands, her frail, rotting body twitching as the ritual reached a crescendo. The ceiling above pulsed with runes, dark side inscriptions swirling with an unnatural rhythm. The entire chamber seemed alive with malevolence. "I warned you this would be difficult," Zash rasped, her voice carrying both amusement and menace. "But you should take solace. I've chosen you. You should feel honored to be the shell for a greater intellect. You'll feel honored when your bones are dust," Nox spat, hurling her hand forward. A jagged fork of crimson force lightning burst from her fingertips, arcing across the chamber. But instead of slamming into Zash, the bolts were drawn upward, absorbed into a hovering talisman suspended in midair. Zash cackled as the ritual device pulsed, displacing Nox's attack harmlessly. "I told you," Zash hissed, "I prepared well." "Not well enough." Nox dropped low and rolled to the left, flanking Zash as she summoned a sudden burst of telekinetic energy, sending statues tumbling from alcoves toward the elder Sith. Zash, startled, was forced to raise a protective barrier to deflect the ancient debris. "Clever little viper," Zash muttered. She stretched out both hands. The force coiled into her palms like black fire, and she unleashed a barrage of corrupted force lightning, tinged with violet and sickly green. The torrent slammed into Nox's hastily summoned defense, an energy bubble forming around her body. It crackled. It buckled. She screamed, but not in surrender. With a surge of raw will, she channeled her pain into strength. Nox erupted forward, her lightsaber spinning with preternatural speed. She feinted left, then sliced low, aiming for Zash's knees. The blow was met with a brutal force push that sent her skidding across the chamber floor. Zash advanced, still cackling, her decaying fingers arcing with lightning. "You'll break eventually, child. You can't win." But Nox snarled, rising from her crouch. Her eyes flared with crimson light, Kallig's legacy thrumming in her blood. "Let's see how you like this." She thrust her hand forward, and from the floor erupted a spear of solidified force essence, a technique she'd long held in reserve. It skewered through Zash's barrier, nicking her side and sending a blast of heat through the air. Zash screamed in genuine pain. Nox didn't stop. Despite the force suppression, she drew on everything: anger, betrayal, desperation. She summoned twin orbs of crackling lightning and hurled them like plasma grenades. Zash dodged the first, but the second slammed into her shoulder, blackening the decaying flesh and spinning her sideways. Nox followed up with a series of precision lightsaber strikes, enhanced by microbursts of telekinesis. Zash parried, her form erratic but unpredictable, one-handed while the other conjured dark magic sigils in the air. Suddenly, a pulse from the ritual talisman in the ceiling flared bright. Zash grinned wickedly. "You should have killed me before the ritual began." The runes activated, and a surge of oppressive force weighed down on Nox. Her knees buckled as her internal energy was pulled from her like smoke from a fire. Her lightsaber faltered. But then... No. I won't be devoured. She slammed her fists into the stone floor, sending a shockwave of kinetic force outward. The ritual array cracked. The suppression field flickered. Zash was caught mid-chant, her body lifted and thrown against the far wall. The ritual talisman above trembled, its light dimming. "You treacherous whelp!" she screamed, staggering to her feet. Nox wiped blood from her lip and began to stalk forward, blade ignited once again. Her voice was cold, sharp. "I am not your vessel. I am your end." The flickering glow of the ritual talisman dimmed overhead, casting a sickly red hue across the shattered chamber. Cracks splintered through the edged runes along the floor, leaking tendrils of dark side energy like blood from a wound. The very structure of the dark temple trembled faintly, resonating with the conflict unfolding within. Nox's boots pressed heavily into the stone, her blade held low, crackling with raw fury. Her eyes glowed with a predatory gleam, feral, unyielding. Her breath came hard but steady, every inhale laced with purpose, every exhale burning with rage. Zash slowly lifted herself from the floor, blood oozing from a split above her brow. Her robes were torn, frayed at the sleeves and shoulders. The ritual's feedback had left deep, jagged burns across her withered frame. Yet her grin never faltered. "You've grown stronger than I imagined," she rasped, teeth stained with blood. "But you're still mine." The talisman above flickered back to life, weaker, but still channeling corrupted force energy. Zash extended her fingers, whispering incantations in ancient Sith dialect. Her voice layered over itself, echoing with unnatural tones like a chorus of the damned speaking in unison. Nox braced herself just in time. A wave of force-warped illusions slammed into her consciousness, visions of her failures, memories twisted beyond recognition. Her father kneeling in chains. Anakin's corpse lying on the floor of the Fury. Vet sobbing in horror as Jasa raised her blade to strike her down. The screams, the flames, the smell of betrayal. But Nox knew the art of deception. With a deep, guttural roar, she clenched her fist and shattered the illusions, cracking them apart like glass in her mind. "You think this is fear?" she spat. "I was forged in fear." She pushed forward again, slashing at Zash, her blade cleaving through the last tendrils of illusion like a firebrand through cobwebs. Zash ducked and retaliated, slamming both palms into the ground and channeling a pulse of necrotic energy that splintered the floorboards. Bones erupted from the stone skeletal hands and faces clawing at Nox's legs, binding her ankles in cursed grasp. Nox snarled in frustration. The binding spell was strong. Her limbs felt like they were turning to lead. But instead of panicking, she dropped her saber entirely. Zash blinked. "Giving up?" "No," Nox whispered. She sank into the force. And then the shadows exploded. With a sudden outburst of dark transfer, a forbidden technique Nox had perfected in secret, she channeled raw dark side energy directly through her own suffering, converting her pain into pure destructive power. The skeletal arms shattered to dust. The cursed bindings evaporated in black mist. Zash screamed in frustration, but her scream was cut short. Nox's hand shot forward and seized the air around Zash's throat. "Let's see how you like being suffocated." Force choke compressed Zash's windpipe with crushing intensity. She clawed at her own neck, wheezing, eyes bulging, but still had the strength to channel a desperate burst of force drain. Nox reeled as she felt a chunk of her own essence ripped away, Zash feasting on her life force like a parasite. Their auras clashed violently, darkness against darkness. Sparks of violet lightning cascaded between them as they both gritted their teeth, neither willing to back down. The talisman above pulsed once again, and then shattered with a final crackling shriek as its overloaded matrix finally collapsed. Both combatants were thrown backward by the shockwave. Nox hit the far wall, her back arching in pain. Her lightsaber rolled away, humming against the floor. Zash rose more slowly now, coughing, bleeding from her mouth. You were meant to serve me. Nox stood. Blood trickled from her nose. She didn't care. I was never meant for anything. I chose this. I earned it. She called her saber back with the force but did not ignite it. Instead, she raised both hands and unleashed a barrage of force lightning so dense, so compressed, it roared like a cannon blast. Each bolt was like a lance of hate. Zash tried to raise a shield, but the first strike blew through it. The second blast sent her crashing to one knee. Her body sizzled, her jaw clenching in agony. Smoke curled from her robes, and her fingers spasmed violently. You dare, she rasped. I do. Nox stepped forward, unleashing another lightning barrage, not from anger but from cold determination. Her stance was steady, deliberate. Every motion controlled. Every breath measured. She began to circle. You think this is just about power? About legacy? I've bled in the tombs. I've been buried under stone and shadow. I've clawed my way out with nothing but spite and skill. Zash's limbs trembled. Her lightsaber long since fallen from her grasp. This was never your story, Nox continued, voice low and venomous. This is mine. Zash attempted to rise, one foot planting beneath her. Nox unleashed another wave of lightning. And Zash dropped again. This time, she didn't rise. On both knees. Hair matted with blood. Hands shaking. Skin blistered. Nox stared down at her in silence, saber still unlit in her hand. Her eyes narrowed. This wasn't over yet, but it was close. The chamber shuddered. The force backlash from the cracked ritual talisman overhead sent streaks of uncontrolled lightning across the ceiling, scorching ancient runes into molten slag. The air now vibrated with pure chaos, every breath a struggle through the thick, sulfur-laden atmosphere. Nox advanced like a shadow made solid, her crimson blade casting a hellish glow across her face. Her gaze never left Zash. She didn't need to speak. The balance of power had shifted. The predator was now prey. But Zash wasn't done. The elder Sith screamed. Not in fear but in fury, and thrust her rotting hands toward the cracked ritual circle. You will not steal what is mine, she howled. Dark magic surged from her fingers, ribbons of ancient alchemy spiraling into the air like serpents of blood and smoke. The ritual glyphs around the room flared one last time in response to her call, and with a bone-cracking sound, the suppression field rebounded, twisting in on itself. Nox staggered slightly as the force pulsed around her again, unstable but vicious. For a heartbeat, gravity warped. Her boots scraped sideways along the stone floor as the space twisted unnaturally, air warping like heated glass. Zash lunged forward with both hands, casting a wave of putrid green energy. Ghostly tendrils tried to latch onto Nox's skin, parasitic, hungry. I've studied countless hosts. Spent decades refining the right. I will have your flesh, apprentice. Nox responded with silence and motion. She rolled beneath the blast, then raised her hand and clenched her fist midair. A column of force compressed space around Zash's chest, crushing the breath from her lungs. Zash choked but grinned, lips split and bleeding. You forget. I taught you that trick. She countered with a violent discharge of force maelstrom, an imploding dome of magnetic hatred that detonated outward. Nox was thrown back, slamming into the broken base of a collapsed Sith statue. She coughed, blood dribbling from her lip, but she rose immediately, her saber igniting again with a furious screech. Then let's see what I've taught myself. Zash roared and struck again, casting a veil of illusions, her body vanishing into 5 identical forms sprinting across the chamber. Nox narrowed her eyes. Cloaking spell, illusion-based projection. Pathetic. She extended her hand not forward but straight into the air. A pulse of raw force judgment, a rare light-side variant taught to her by holocrons Anakin had gifted, flared like a supernova. The chamber was bathed in brilliant gold. 4 of the doppelgangers disintegrated into smoke. The real Zash screamed, momentarily blinded. Nox dashed forward, her movements fueled by pain and hate and cunning. She slammed into Zash with a shoulder check, knocking her back into a wall. The older Sith tried to raise a ward, but Nox was already inside her guard. Strike. Parry. Elbow. Knee. The two dueled in close quarters now, Nox using every ounce of her precision, lacing saber feints with kinetic bursts. Her blade sang. Zash's burned with instability. With a pivot step and vicious twist, Nox slammed her saber hilt into Zash's face. Cartilage cracked. The elder Sith shrieked and tumbled backward, one eye now swollen shut. Your time is over, Nox said coldly. Zash, crawling backward, hissed with what little strength she had. I will consume you. Nox raised her hand. Force lightning coiled along her fingers, snarling to life. It wasn't uncontrolled, it was elegant, focused. It coiled around Zash's limbs like serpents, lifting her into the air. Zash screamed again and again as the lightning peeled at her skin and soul. And then she collapsed onto her knees, her body shaking, her voice a whisper of failure. Darth Zash shouted, "You can't stop this ritual from happening." With a sudden thrust of power, she launched a potent force push from her decaying hand. Nox was hurled backward, crashing violently against the stone floor. Pain lanced through her ribs, but she grit her teeth and prepared to stand again. Zash, shaking and wounded, barely held herself up within a force bubble. The corrupted energies of the dark ritual pulsed around her. An explosion erupted. Arcane energy shrieked and flashed, and then darkness. The chamber still crackled with the aftermath of dark energy, the scent of burnt flesh and ozone lingering thick in the air like a funeral pyre. Faint embers danced around the shattered remnants of the ritual circle, flickering against blood-slicked stone and scorched runes. The once pulsing talisman that had hovered overhead now lay cracked and dead on the floor, a hollow husk of what was meant to be Zash's path to immortality. Nox coughed, staggering upright amidst the debris, her body trembling from the internal battle of will and power that had nearly consumed her. Her crimson blade was still humming softly in her grip, now streaked with ash and dried blood. Her face was bruised, her hair wild, matted with sweat, but her eyes shone with fierce, undimmed clarity. Across the chamber, Zash's broken body twitched faintly amidst rubble, unmoving. Her limbs were twisted at unnatural angles, and the last remnants of ritual energy bled from her mouth like black smoke. She had tried to seize immortality and lost everything. Then a boom echoed down the corridor. Heavy footsteps followed. A familiar voice cursed under his breath, muttering, "What the hell was that?" Anakin Skywalker sprinted into the chamber, twin sabers clipped at his waist and his eyes sweeping every corner like a predator locked onto a target. His black cloak whipped behind him as he skidded to a halt just before the smoking remains of the ritual's center. The scent hit him first: scorched air, blood, and dark magic. His eyes locked on Nox, standing over a collapsed Zash. "Nox," he barked, rushing forward. Kem Val, still breathing heavily and glowing faintly with residual energy, lurched from the side, his large frame casting a hulking shadow. "Human," he growled through clenched fangs, "use the Force, now. I will sacrifice myself for Master." Anakin didn't fully understand what was happening, but the urgency in the Dasaid's voice was enough. Without hesitation, he reached out with the Force, surrounding Kem's massive body in a shimmering field of kinetic power and launched him like a missile toward the still sparking force bubble that Zash had raised in her final act of desperation. Crack! Kem's war blade smashed through the weakened barrier like a wrecking ball, followed by a shockwave of dark energy. Zash's body was violently hurled backward, slamming against the far wall before slumping into a lifeless heap. The silence afterward was heavy and ringing. Nox stumbled forward and dropped to her knees beside Zash's still form. She checked for a pulse. There was none. Her former master, the would-be usurper, was dead. Truly, finally dead. She stared at the corpse, chest heaving, and then turned to see Anakin striding toward her. "Are you okay?" he demanded, dropping beside her. "Did she hurt you? What the hell were you thinking walking into that trap alone?" Nox looked up at him slowly. Her blood-smeared face illuminated by the smoldering red lights of the broken ritual circle. Despite everything, her smile bloomed tired, but warm, sincere. And then without warning she leaned in and kissed him. A deep, lingering kiss. Passionate. Grateful. Real. When they finally pulled away, Anakin's stern expression had softened, and Nox was still smiling. "I'm fine, Anakin," she whispered. "I just didn't want to burden you. There are some things I have to do alone, just like there are things you need to do alone." Anakin groaned, standing. "You're either a brilliant genius, or a complete idiot." "Well," Nox quipped, rising beside him, "I prefer to be brilliant." He laughed, shaking his head. "You certainly have your ancestors' pride." Then, a sudden shudder came from nearby. The hulking form of Kem Val staggered forward, but something was wrong. His movements were disjointed, his posture twitchy. A crackling energy shimmered in his aura. And then came the voice. It wasn't Kem's. "Apprentice," came the distorted, enraged voice of Zash. "What have you done to me? Why couldn't you just hold still for a few moments longer? Why couldn't you call your monster off?" Nox took a cautious step back, her eyes narrowing. "Who are you?" The answer came with venom. "That thing broke through my defenses. It interrupted the ritual, shattered my concentration, diverted the energy flow. 5 years of preparation training you, gathering artifacts, planning for this moment, and it's all wasted. You were my legacy. You were my key to eternal life. You fool! You've ruined everything." Nox's voice was cold, final. "You shouldn't have opposed me. You think you're clever?" Zash snarled. "This body, this beast's form is still powerful enough to punish you. I'll tear your precious boyfriend apart limb by limb while you watch, and then I'll wear your body like a cloak and use it to build my new empire." But Nox simply smiled, calm and unshaken. "The Dasate is bound to me," she said slowly. "And now, so are you." Zash's voice faltered. "What? No, that bond, that damn bond. How is your will stronger than mine? I am the master, not you." Nox leaned closer. "This is what we call a classic reversal of fortune." Kem Val's body thrashed violently. "Ah! What new kink has insinuated itself into the twisted coils of my unfortunate existence? First Tulak Horde abandons me to this meager creature, and now it's as if my body is no longer my own." "Kem Val!" Nox called gently, uncertain. The voice shifted slightly. Gruff. Familiar. "I remember. I was attacking the female Darth, then I felt something. Something trying to pull me out of my own body. It wasn't death, but something else. So I resisted. I resisted. Then, darkness. Tell me, Master, what has happened?" Nox's voice was quiet, calm. "It seems Zash went into your body. But you didn't leave." "What? No. No." Then, a chill wind swept through the chamber. A spectral glow formed at its center as the ghostly figure of Lord Kallig appeared, his presence majestic and imposing. "Protest all you like, Kemval servant of Tulak Horde," Kallig intoned. "But your ancient master's artifact has been turned against you. And through some strange and miraculous trick, neither you nor Zash have full control." Anakin raised an eyebrow. "That sounds complicated and unlikely." Lord Kallig turned slowly. "You pose an interesting question, future son-in-law. The Dasaid was not part of Zash's original plan. Perhaps his innate resistance to the Force interfered." Nox flushed bright red, her gaze dropping to the floor. "Flesh of my flesh," Kallig continued warmly, "you have defeated your master with the aid of your bonded monster and your chosen mate. The danger I feared has passed. Your rise to glory is now complete. I do not know if we will meet again on this side of death, but I am at peace. I came only to say goodbye, and good luck." Then he paused, smirking. "But I will expect to see you carry on the bloodline. No pressure, of course." Nox's cheeks turned scarlet. "Why yeah, about that. I actually have something to say." Anakin blinked, caught off guard. "What is it?" She took his hand, placing it gently over her stomach. "I'm pregnant," she whispered. "We're going to have a family, Anakin." His eyes widened, truly stunned. "Really?" Nox nodded. A grin slowly overtook Anakin's face. That's great. We need to start planning everything immediately." Kallig laughed. "Then it is settled. My wish has been fulfilled. Flesh of my flesh has found a worthy husband, and the bloodline shall continue. But remember, they will also carry the name Skywalker. I leave her in your care. Anakin. Do not disappoint me." Anakin smirked, scratching the back of his head. "No pressure, hey." Then, his tone turned serious as he looked at Nox. "But, this was reckless, Nox. Fighting Zash while pregnant? From now on, you have to take it easy. No more solo missions. You can stay on my ship, it's spacious, secure. Plenty of room for you, your crew, and then some." Nox sighed, but smiled. "It was already too late when I found out. But yet, I'll move my things over. And I could use some meditation time anyway." Kallig nodded. "You are Lord Kallig now. It was once a glorious name. Use it well." Anakin chuckled. "If our kid inherits your family's pride, we're in trouble." Nox shot back with a smirk, "And if they inherit your stubbornness and manic energy, the galaxy might be doomed." The chamber was beginning to settle, though the tension in the air remained palpable. The flickering energy from the cracked ritual sigils cast dancing shadows on the stone, now stained with the blood of betrayal and hard-earned survival. Anakin and Nox stood close, their moment of intimacy drawing them together despite the chaos around them. But just as peace began to wrap its delicate fingers around the room, two unfamiliar voices echoed down the corridor. "I'm telling you, Corrin," one said, breathless. "Zash wasn't all there. All that talk about dreams and rituals pure madness." "Still," the second replied calmly, "I saw her enter. And we both saw her apprentice follow. Some things happened. We need to be careful." Two humans entered the chamber, young, cloaked in Sith robes, but clearly less experienced. They froze at the sight of Zash's crumpled corpse and Nox standing nearby, blood-stained and proud. "Darth Zash," the first one call shouted. You murdered her." He ignited his crimson saber with a snap hiss and charged forward, rage blinding him. Nox reached for her blade, but didn't have to act. Anakin's saber flared to life as he stepped forward, intercepting the blow mid-swing. Their blades clashed with a loud, vibrating hum. "Back off," Anakin warned, his tone low and deadly. "You have no idea what's going on." "Hold your weapon, Kal," the second apprentice Corrin shouted, stepping between them. "This isn't what Zash wanted." Kal hesitated, breathing hard, then deactivated his saber and backed away reluctantly. Corrin stepped forward, bowing slightly. My lord, we've not formally met. I'm Corrin. This is Kal. We were Zash's most recent apprentices. She spoke often of you. Of your power. Of your future. Nox's lips curled into a smirk. Oh, I'm well aware of her obsession with destiny. Corrin nodded solemnly. She foresaw this moment. She dreamt that her most powerful apprentice would one day rise to destroy her and lead the Sith to new strength, alongside a powerful partner. She believed it was fate. She welcomed it. Nox laughed. Zash welcomed nothing. That woman would cling to life with her last rotten tooth if she could. Corrin looked surprised but continued. Maybe. But she always spoke of you with admiration. Since the day she leaked the news of your victory over Darth Scotia, we've been preparing for this day. More robed figures began to emerge from the corridor, humans, mostly. Former students, hopeful acolytes, researchers from Zash's cult. Each of them paused, recognizing Nox, seeing Zash's lifeless form, and then, one by one, began to kneel. Anakin blinked. Are you kidding me? Where do you keep finding these cult followers? Nox chuckled. What can I say? I'm charismatic. Anakin shook his head. Charismatic and terrifying. Corrin stepped forward again. Darth Van Atten, Zash's superior on the Dark Council, will surely wish to speak with you. But for now we are yours. Your strength has been proven. We pledge ourselves to you. Nox smirked, then turned to Anakin. Would you do the honors? Anakin groaned. Oh come on. I'm not getting roped into this weird Sith cult thing. She raised an eyebrow. All right. Just this once. He took a theatrical step forward, raising his voice like a war general. Behold! The heir of Kallig. Slayer of Zash. Successor of Tulak Horde. Lord of the Sith Trials. And fiancé to the greatest man in the galaxy. Bow before your lords. Nox rolled her eyes. Now who's full of themselves? Anakin flashed a grin. What can I say? I think it rubbed off. The entire crowd bowed on hands and knees, heads lowered in reverence. The chamber fell quiet again, until Nox blinked and looked at him sideways. Wait, fiancé. Before she could get another word in, Anakin was already on one knee. From the folds of his cloak, he drew out a ring elegant, handcrafted with rare crystal and court ossus metal etched with ancient Tythonian script. Its design glimmered with a mix of Sith elegance and Jedi symbolism, a balance, just like them. Nox's breath caught. Nox, he said, voice steady and clear, will you marry me? Her eyes widened. Her hands slowly rose to her chest, fingers clasping in disbelief and joy. Really? She whispered. You really mean it? Anakin smiled gently. Of course I mean it. Why else would I have chosen you, risked everything for you, fought beside you? I love you. I'm ready to build something real with you. Tears welled in her eyes, streaking down her bruised cheeks. Then, without hesitation, she grabbed his hand and slid the ring onto her finger. My answer is yes, she whispered. Yes. I want to be your wife. Anakin stood, embracing her, holding her tightly. The crowd applauded, soft at first, then rising, respectful, fervent. After a long moment, Anakin finally turned to the acolytes. All right, enough celebration. You've got your orders. Train hard. Gather knowledge. Expand our influence. Bring me results. Understood. Yes, my lord, they responded in unison. The chamber slowly cleared as the acolytes bowed and withdrew, murmuring plans, eager to please their new masters. Nox turned to Anakin, her smile still lingering. We should keep this a secret, for now. From the Sith Council, at least. Anakin nodded. Agreed. But we can tell the crew. They're practically family. And Darth Van Atten? She asked cautiously. He waved a hand. He can wait. You're pregnant. I'm not risking you meeting him until after the baby's born. Right, Nox whispered, rubbing her stomach gently. We've got time. And a lot of work ahead. They turned together, hands intertwined, and left the ruined chamber behind. Their path lay ahead, uncertain, dangerous, filled with shadows and enemies. But together, they walked it as lords, and soon, as family. Moments later, the heavy iron doors of the dark temple groaned open with a screech that echoed like a dying creature. Darth Sidious entered the defiled chamber, each of his footsteps unnervingly calm, methodical yet pregnant with dark purpose. His cloak swept along the scorched floor as he approached the still smoking wreckage of the failed ritual, the coppery tang of blood thick in the air. His gaze narrowed as it settled upon the blackened, broken body of Darth Zash. What remained of her was crumpled near the edge of the desecrated altar, half shrouded in smoke and force-twisted shadows. Sidious sneered. Could I be too late? He muttered, voice low with disdain. Damn it, Vitiate. His lip curled with venom as he took in the scene. Ritual inscriptions marred the chamber walls, some still glowing faintly, others cracked and scorched. The air still shimmered with lingering force residues, Zash's last, desperate grasp for immortality gone horribly awry. Sidious lowered himself beside the corpse, his yellow eyes scanning the charred remains with the surgical precision of a master dissecting a corpse. To think. This pathetic creature, this failure may have stumbled upon something useful. There was no grief. No reverence. Only calculation. He muttered to himself as his gloved fingers reached out, brushing aside the singed remains of her robes. Her talismans were still intact, cracked but humming with latent power. I have studied all forms of Sith alchemy, Sidious whispered, his voice now reverent not to Zash, but to the artifacts. Every lost text. Every forbidden tome. I have mastered them. I've made my own innovations, pushed boundaries even Naga Sado dared not touch. His eyes glimmered with cold fire. Even the witchcraft of the Night Sisters, I bent their primal chaos into order. And yet, he lifted a jagged ring engraved with sigils, this wretched snake, stumbled upon a methodology outside my current matrix. He laughed, a dark, biting thing. You never truly understood what you had, but I do. Sidious stood slowly, the artifacts clutched in his hand as though they were sacred relics, yet his expression was one of complete domination. The corpse of Zash lay discarded behind him, a broken vessel, a failed experiment. But to him, she was more than a failure, she was a stepping stone. This method, flawed, primitive, full of desperation, he muttered, analyzing the talismans, the etched inscriptions, the way the Force had been manipulated. But it points toward the truth. Toward something far greater. Something refined. Something mine. His mind raced, moving like the storm winds of Dramund Kos, fast, destructive, brilliant. Zash's approach to transferring her essence into a new body lacked precision and control. It relied too heavily on ritual. It was vulnerable to disruption. But Sidious never relied on chance. He would engineer his immortality. A crude foundation, he mused aloud, but with the right alterations, the correct calibrations. I can transform this arcane trash into a refined scientific alchemy. He reached into his robes and pulled out a hollow communicator. The small circular device flickered to life with a hum, casting a pale blue glow that illuminated the ruin around him. Within seconds, the image of a kami-known scientist materialized, tall, thin, with long, delicate fingers and expressionless black eyes. Lord Sidious, the kami-known said in their smooth, clinical voice. Are you ready to proceed with the order? Sidious tilted his head, that serpentine smile slowly spreading across his face. Indeed, he said with crisp finality. I have acquired what I need. He flicked his wrist, and a data spike slid from his sleeve. He slotted it into the holocommunicator's uplink port. Instantly, arcane formulas, anatomical diagrams, and precise instructions for Sith-enhanced cloning streamed through the encrypted channel. "I want you to use my DNA," Sidious commanded. "And implement this sequence exactly as outlined. Integrate the neurological transfer protocols, yes, even those. You will not deviate." The Kaminoan paused, studying the information. "My lord, these methods are extremely unorthodox," the scientist replied. "There is a high likelihood of unstable behavioral traits, uncontrolled power surges, and the force interactions. Well, frankly, we do not understand them. We cannot guarantee the product's quality." Sidious's eyes narrowed like a Vorn tiger preparing to strike. "You do not need to understand it," he growled. "You need only follow orders. I have already accounted for all variables. You are simply the tools. I am the architect." There was silence for a moment, then the Kaminoan bowed its long neck. "Of course, Lord Sidious. We will commence immediately. It will take 1 to 2 standard years to complete your request." The transmission ended. Silence returned to the ritual chamber. But within Sidious, there was exultation. "Ha ha ha ha," he laughed, dark and triumphant. "One benefit of being cast into the past, is access to information once lost to time." He slowly walked to the center of the room, standing where Zash had tried and failed to ascend beyond death. "The data, the events, the secrets that would take decades to unravel in my original timeline, now lie before me unlocked. The galaxy has already played its game. And now, I hold the cheat code." He closed his eyes, letting the force saturate his every molecule. The air crackled around him. Perks, of being a Dark Lord of the Sith, forged in the shadows of Bane's doctrine, yet destined to surpass them all. He turned toward the exit, his expression cold and measured once more. "Soon, Vitiate, you'll see just how deep my vision runs. You believe yourself a god, but I will show you what it means to wield power without limit." As he stepped out into the gloom of the temple's stone corridor, even the ancient spirits of the Sith bound to the ruins by hatred and death stirred uneasily in their crypts. Anakin was walking into the fury, flanked by Kemval and Andronikos Revel. The atmosphere between them was light, but layered with a subtle tension. The ancient Dasaid kept clutching his skull at intervals, silent as ever. The pirate, however, was less restrained. "I don't like leaving my beauty in this spaceport," Andronikos grumbled, glancing over his shoulder with an exaggerated sigh. Nox didn't skip a beat. "Well, it's not your ship, Andronikos. It belongs to me, remember? We'll return soon enough. But for now, we're moving in with Anakin's crew. His ship is bigger, more advanced, and it has everything we'll need." Andronikos crossed his arms, shaking his head dramatically. "Still can't believe you got pregnant. Thought you'd die alone on some remote tomb world." "Hat. Oh yeah," Nox retorted with a sly grin. "At least I'm not alone now. Guess that can't be said for you." Kemval didn't speak. Instead, he groaned softly, clutching his head again. Whatever internal battle he was fighting with Zash's presence was clearly ongoing. Andronikos pointed suddenly. "Hey, Sith guy. I'm calling dibs on the cockpit." Anakin turned to him with a raised eyebrow. "It's my ship. I don't know what arrangement you had with Nox, but there's no way I'm giving up my rights to pilot it. If you're lucky, I'll let you fly it once in a while. If it makes you feel better, you can sit in the co-pilot's seat." Andronikos huffed. "Come on, man. I'm the best pilot in the galaxy. Did you know I once flew through the Maw with no issues? Ask around." Anakin smirked, eyes gleaming. "Oh yeah? I won a pod race at 9 years old in the unknown regions, no less. Fastest time recorded. Later, I was confirmed as the Republic's top star ace pilot during the war." Andronikos stopped walking, turned to Anakin with an incredulous stare. "I call bantha crap. No way a human, especially a 9-year-old, won a pod race. That's suicide for a kid. Oh yeah, Anakin said, stopping just at the ramp. How about we race sometime? I can easily arrange a starfighter course. If you win, you get to fly the Fury exclusively for the rest of your stay. But if I win, you acknowledge I'm the best pilot in the galaxy. No whining, no excuses. Deal. There was a pause. Andronikos looked him over, then laughed, loud and genuine. Ha ha ha. You got balls, Sith guy. All right, deal. I think I'm starting to see why Sith lady over there likes you. But don't back out, I'm holding you to your word. Anakin chuckled. Wouldn't have it any other way. Just then, Anakin's hollow communicator blinked to life. He stepped aside as Nox noticed the change in his expression. What's wrong? She asked, watching him carefully. Nothing, he replied smoothly. Just go ahead and get settled inside. I'll join you in a minute. Nox nodded and led her crew up the ramp into the Fury. The moment they disappeared inside, Anakin activated the call. A life-sized hologram of Darth Mar materialized in front of him, cloaked in obsidian armor, towering and imposing as ever. Lord Mar, Anakin said, bowing slightly. To what do I owe the honor of this call? Mar's voice rumbled like distant thunder. Explain to me why. Shortly after your arrival on Dramund Kos, a Jedi strike team was discovered inside the temple and seen retreating from the Dark Temple. The surveillance feeds were incomplete, but Force signatures were unmistakable. Anakin straightened, his tone firm but respectful. I went to the Dark Temple to help someone close to me, someone walking straight into a death trap. On my way, I was intercepted by a Sith I've recently come across. My former master. His name is Sidious. He tried to stop me from entering. Mar's silhouette seemed to lean in. Go on. I pushed through and went inside anyway. That's when my former Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi and the Grand Master of the Jedi Order from the unknown regions Yoda ambushed us. They tried to persuade me to rejoin the Jedi. I refused. He paused for effect, then continued. Me and Sidious, despite everything, we fought side by side. We forced the Jedi to retreat. But just as the battle was ending, someone else appeared. Who? Mar asked, though his tone suggested he already suspected the answer. Anakin's voice dropped lower. I believe Sidious called him Vitiate. There was silence. Then, abruptly, Mar's voice cut in, sharper than before. You said Vitiate? Are you certain? Anakin nodded grimly. Positive. He showed up, grabbed Sidious as if he were nothing, and vanished. Said he'd be seeing me again. Darth Mar went still. His masked gaze seemed to pierce through the hollow comm. This is grave news. The Emperor has isolated himself from the Dark Council for over a millennia. Many times we've petitioned him to re-emerge to lead us again. But he's always remained silent. That he would appear now, even briefly. It must mean something significant. Mar's tone grew even colder. What can you tell me about this Sidious? Anakin exhaled. He's dangerous. Manipulative. A liar through and through. He fooled everyone, even the Jedi, right under their noses. But make no mistake. He may look frail, but he's more powerful than any Jedi Master I've ever seen. He's as dangerous as he is cunning. As I suspected, Mar murmured. If he's captured the Emperor's attention, we cannot ignore him. This complicates things. There was a pause. Mar finished with grim finality. We will ensure the Jedi understand that their infiltration of our capital will not be tolerated. For now, continue with your duties. Mar out. The hologram fizzled into static and vanished. Anakin stood there for a moment, eyes narrowed in thought. Then he turned and walked up the Fury's ramp. Anakin stepped into the Fury, his boots echoing against the metal floors as the ramp sealed behind him. Inside, the air was already alive with chatter. Vet stood at the center of the lounge, animatedly explaining the crew dynamic to Nox's companions, gesturing toward various systems and pointing out who was who. Rex leaned against the wall with his arms crossed, quietly taking it all in. His interaction with Vet had been minimal before now, but he watched her carefully, assessing. As Anakin approached, the first to speak was Jasa. Her eyes narrowed with suspicion as they flicked from Nox to Kemval to Andronikos. "Master," she said cautiously, "who exactly are they?" "Vet says they'll be staying with us." Anakin gave a firm nod, his voice calm but direct. "This is my fiancée, Nox. She'll be staying aboard the Fury for a while. And yes, she's pregnant." The room went completely silent. Rex straightened with a sharp blink. "Fiancé? Wait, what? Since when did that happen?" Vet's mouth hung open. "Pregnant," she blurted. I didn't expect that. Actually, now that I think about it, the way she was staring at you, yeah, I should have seen it coming." Quinn stepped forward with the practiced poise of a soldier. "My lord," he said, eyes wide but composed, "this development is most unexpected. I don't know what to say except that if you require anything, I am at your disposal. And of course, congratulations." Jasa broke into a genuine smile. "I'm happy for you, Master. Truly. Though I've got to admit, I didn't see that coming." Kemval groaned quietly and wandered away, clutching his head again as if fighting off a presence within. He said nothing, his silence more unsettling than usual. Andronikos's voice rang out across the momentary quiet. Hey, quick question." He pointed down the hall with a smirk. "Why does that protocol droid have blood on him?" All heads turned toward the hallway. C-3PO was standing there, looking absent-mindedly up at the ceiling. At the sudden attention, he jolted slightly, then looked back at the group. Oh my, yes, terribly sorry," he exclaimed. "I didn't have time to clean up after my last sanitation cycle. The prisoner was being exceedingly uncooperative, so I incapacitated him." Anakin blinked, then slowly pinched the bridge of his nose. "What the hell, 3PO? I explicitly told everyone to stay away from him until I said otherwise." C-3PO tilted his head apologetically. "Oh, I am most regretful, Master Skywalker. Truly. It won't happen again." Anakin exhaled sharply and waved him off. "Just go clean yourself up. Now." The droid nodded and walked off with a stiff-legged shuffle. Andronikos burst out laughing. "You've got a prisoner locked up somewhere, and your droid roughs him up? Ha! Cold, man. Real cold." Nox stepped into the center of the room, her crimson eyes gleaming mischievously as she raised a hand. "Why don't we celebrate?" she said with a smirk. A chorus of cheers followed, some genuine, some amused, and others a bit hesitant. But for the first time in a long while, the Fury's main deck echoed with the rare sound of laughter. The dull hum of the Fury's engines provided a constant, familiar rhythm beneath their feet. But the atmosphere inside the central hall had transformed into something far more rare aboard a Sith warship: warmth. The dark, durasteel walls were still the same, the cold interior lit by red accent lights, but the laughter of gathered voices echoed off them, giving life to a vessel usually steeped in silence and precision. Nox stood near the main hollow table, arms crossed and a soft smile on her lips as she observed the sudden burst of camaraderie around her. The scent of heated rations and spiced Corellian ale undoubtedly swiped from one of the ship's storage compartments mixed in the air. Vet had managed to pull out a set of small, glowing cubes that blinked with different colors, a Twi'lek party game, no doubt, and was busy teaching Jasa the rules while grinning ear to ear. Kemval, still partially silent and brooding due to Zash's lingering presence, sat near the back wall, occasionally letting out a low growl of annoyance when the sound became too much. Despite this, there was a glint of something different in his eyes, acknowledgement, perhaps, of a moment that, despite his usual contempt, held value. Rex leaned casually against one of the consoles, arms crossed as he sipped from a flask he likely carried everywhere. He chuckled at something Andronikos said, something involving a hut, a crate of Tibana gas, and a near-death experience. The pirate gestured animatedly with a half-empty mug, clearly in his element. Anakin stood close to Nox, watching everything with quiet attentiveness. This wasn't a squad of elite soldiers preparing for war. Not tonight. Tonight, they were just people, strange, powerful, dangerous people, sure, but people who had found some strange, shared ground through loyalty to them. He leaned in slightly. You know, he said, his voice low so only she could hear, I don't think I've ever seen a Sith crew laugh this much without someone getting force-choked by the end of it. Nox tilted her head toward him, her dark eyes gleaming with mirth. Well, give it time. We have Andronikos and Vet in the same room. Something combustible will happen eventually. Hopefully not literally, Anakin replied, smirking. Although that would be on brand. They shared a quiet laugh. For a moment, the galaxy's wars and betrayals melted away. Jasa, now on her third round of the Twi'lek game, lost again and groaned in dramatic frustration. This game cheats, she said with mock seriousness. Vet giggled and threw an arm over her shoulder. No, sweetie, you're just terrible at it. I'm gonna make a champion out of you if it kills me. Or at least if it gets Kem to crack a smile. Kem snarled. The only smile you will see is when your game is destroyed underfoot. I'll take that as a maybe, Vet quipped. Anakin and Nox shared another glance, and she subtly nudged him. Come with me, she said quietly. He raised a brow. Sneaking off already? We didn't even get to cut the cake. We don't have cake, she replied, already walking toward the back corridor that led to the officer quarters. But we do have things to discuss. He followed without argument. Officer quarters private. The door slid closed behind them with a quiet hiss, muting the noise of the celebration. The chamber was dimly lit, a flickering ambient light above casting soft orange glows across the bulkhead. Anakin's quarters were larger than most befitting a Lord of the Sith with Imperial resources, but they still held a soldier's utilitarian design. A large console desk, a few data pads, an open locker with spare armor. No clutter. Just efficiency. Nox sat on the edge of the bed, her back straight but her hands resting on her lap. Anakin remained standing, one hand at his belt, the other rubbing the back of his neck. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then she broke the silence. Thank you, she said softly. He turned to her, frowning slightly. For what? For not treating me like I was helpless, but also for caring enough to be angry. He stepped closer and leaned against the edge of the desk, folding his arms. I wasn't angry because you can't handle yourself, he said. I was angry because you're carrying our child and walked into a death trap alone. There's a difference. She nodded. I know. And if I could go back and change it, maybe I would. But, the Dark Temple was something I had to face alone. My own legacy. My own master. Anakin exhaled slowly. I get it. Believe me, I do. I've had my share of confrontations with ghosts from my past. He moved to sit beside her. Their shoulders brushed. I'm not here to control you, he continued. I've never wanted that. But this it matters. And I need to know that you'll let me be part of the burden, not just the rewards. Her gaze softened. You already are. I just didn't want to pull you further into the politics of my Sith legacy. But I realize now, we're already in this together. More than I ever imagined. They were quiet again. Then Anakin smiled faintly and looked at her sideways. Also, you have to admit, our kid's going to be terrifying. Nox chuckled. Oh, absolutely. Between your combat skills and my scheming? The galaxy's doomed. Not to mention Kem as a godparent. Her eyes widened. Please no. They laughed together loud and freely. Back at the celebration. While the others were distracted, Andronikos, now boasting loudly about the time he escaped a Sith Lord by pretending to be a Hutt chef, Vet tugged on Rex's arm discreetly. He looked down at her with a puzzled smirk. What? Come on, soldier boy. Let's take a walk. Rex raised a brow. A walk? On a ship? Don't worry, she grinned. I know all the best smuggling compartments. He hesitated for a second, glancing at the others. Then he shrugged. Lead the way. She guided him down one of the maintenance corridors. The hum of the engines grew louder here, more raw, less filtered. They passed droid bays, maintenance terminals, and at least one half-open compartment stacked with hidden credits and spice. Andronikos's work, no doubt. Eventually, Vet stopped at a small observation nook barely large enough for two, overlooking the stars through a narrow, reinforced viewport. She flopped down onto the ledge, legs hanging. You ever stop moving? Rex asked, leaning beside her. Only when the view is good, she said with a playful grin. Or when the company's better. He crossed his arms. You've known me for a few months. Long enough to know you're not like the others. You mean not a Sith? No, I mean. You don't look at people like you're measuring how useful they are. You look like you're waiting for someone to shoot first. Like you don't trust anyone. He looked away. That's not entirely wrong. She tilted her head. Well, consider this your unofficial welcome to the family. Family? Hey, he muttered. Yab. Dysfunctional, violent, emotionally repressed, but still a family. He allowed himself a small smile. Could be worse. It will be, she said cheerfully. Trust me. The Furies mess hall continuing the celebration. The crew's laughter rose louder, echoing through the cold steel walls and momentarily replacing the hum of machinery with the warmth of shared connection. Vet and Rex were still gone, off somewhere in the depths of the ship. Jessa, meanwhile, stood silently near the table, eyes fixed on the last of her spiced drink. She swirled it thoughtfully, her mind clearly not in the room. Quinn stood nearby, posture straight as ever, but his expression was unusually soft. You seem contemplative, he offered. Jessa glanced up, slightly startled. Just surprised, she replied. I didn't expect the news. You mean Lady Nox? I mean everything. Her, Anakin, the pregnancy, the engagement. I knew he was powerful. But, he's changed. Quinn nodded slowly. Power tempers a man or corrupts him. Lord Skywalker is difficult to define. Even among the Sith, he is, singular. He's not like other Sith Lords, she whispered. He still has something left in him. Something human. Dangerous words in our circles, Quinn said quietly. But I do not disagree. They stood in silence for a moment, the din of the others blurring into the background. Then Quinn added, I will admit, my own loyalty has long been divided. But if I am to serve a lord who can survive a battle against both Jedi and Sith alike, perhaps, it is time I re-evaluated what loyalty means. Jessa gave him a long look. You're not the only one. Officer quarters Anakin and Nox. Nox leaned back onto the bed, one hand resting over her stomach, the other brushing a strand of hair from her eyes. Anakin sat cross-legged beside her, watching her in a way that betrayed how seriously he had begun to take all this. So, she said, half teasing, have you come to terms with the fact that you are going to be a father? I've seen entire systems burn, he replied quietly. I've felt stars die. But this terrifies me. She tilted her head. Not because I don't want it, Anakin continued. But because I do. More than I expected. Nox smiled faintly. We're not exactly role models. He snorted. No. But maybe that's what makes us better than those who pretend to be. She looked at him, eyes sharp. Have you thought about names? He blinked. You're serious? You don't think ahead much, do you? I do, he said. Just not about things like that. Well, I have. And no, I'm not naming our child Darth anything. He gave a mock-offended look. What about Darth Cuddles? She smacked his arm, and they both laughed. Boy or girl? He asked softly. She went quiet for a moment. The Force doesn't reveal it to me. Maybe it doesn't want me to know. Maybe it's protecting the child from us. Anakin reached over and took her hand. Then we'll protect them. With everything we are. Her grip tightened around his fingers. I believe you. Hidden Maintenance Bay Vet and Rex. They sat now, side by side in the hidden alcove of the Fury, feet dangling off the grated floor over machinery humming with life. The stars beyond glimmered like distant, unreachable islands. Vet leaned her head back against the wall. So. You've fought Jedi. Served in a galaxy-wide war. You ever think you'd be sitting on a Sith warship sharing quiet with a Twi'lek thief? Rex gave a small chuckle. Honestly? No. But life's funny like that. I've always trusted Anakin, she said. Even before I knew who he really was. Something about him just felt different. He doesn't rule with fear, you know? He inspires it, sure, but not in us. Rex nodded. That's why I followed him. Why I still do. He makes you want to win. They were silent for a while. Then she said softly, do you think we'll survive this war? He turned his head to look at her. I don't think that's the right question. What is then? Will we deserve to survive it? She blinked at that. He shrugged. We've done things. Killed people. Destroyed lives. All for missions. Orders. Purpose. At some point, survival isn't enough unless there's something worth living for. Vet leaned her head onto his shoulder without a word. They stayed that way, listening to the silence of deep space between the thrum of the ship's heart. The toast. Back in the mess hall, everyone had regathered. Even Kemval returned, standing stiffly in the corner with arms crossed, his presence looming but unspoken. Vet and Rex reappeared together, clearly more at ease than before. Jessa and Quinn stood side by side, both still thoughtful, but united. Anakin stood near the hollow table with a glass in hand. The others quieted naturally, instinctively. He cleared his throat, then spoke. We don't get many nights like this, he began. No battles. No politics. No ancient Sith ghosts trying to possess someone. Just this. Some chuckles. I've seen what happens to crews that don't trust each other. They fall apart. But us, we're still standing. Even with everything going on, we're still here. Stronger than ever. He looked around the room, letting his gaze meet every set of eyes. I won't lie to you. The galaxy's in chaos. The Jedi, the Sith, the Emperor, every one of them's playing their own game. But here? On this ship? We play by our rules. Vet raised her glass. To the crew of the Fury. And to our future. Nox added, her voice clear and commanding. Glasses clinked. Cheers erupted. As the celebration continued into the artificial night, laughter returned. Even Kemval, in his own monstrous way, let out a grunt that might have been approval. And through it all, Anakin stood beside Nox, hand resting protectively over hers, knowing that despite the darkness of the galaxy, something real had started here. The air aboard the Fury was electric with an unspoken sense of shift, something deeper than just a victory. It was change. The hum of systems filled the silence between footsteps, and the distant pulsing of the ship's reactor gave off a steady rhythm, like a heartbeat beneath their feet. The crew had gathered in the main hold, a sleek chamber with long, reinforced walls of durasteel and subtle red lighting that cast dramatic shadows across every face. A small spread of food and drink had been hastily set up. Credits be damned, they needed this. Bottles clinked. Laughter echoed. And in the midst of it, Nox, with a still healing gash across her cheek, stood at Anakin's side, the very center of gravity. Vet bounced on her heels as she raised her glass. "All right, everyone. A toast," she declared, eyes flicking across the group. "To unexpected pregnancies, secret fiancés, and whatever Sithly lovebirds do in their spare time." Raucous laughter rippled through the chamber. Even Captain Rex, standing rigid near the wall in full armor, allowed himself a smirk. Andronikos Revel, drink in hand, leaned against the wall, his coat slightly open. "I'll be honest," he drawled, "I thought Nox was gonna die alone in some tomb or cut down by a rival apprentice. But look at her now. Baby on the way, war hero boyfriend, whole damn army of Sith cultists at her feet. You've gone soft, Red." Nox gave him a dangerous smirk. "Keep talking, pirate, and I'll have Kemval test his new possession resistance on you." Andronikos laughed, holding up his hands. "Hey, I'm just admiring the glow-up. Honestly, it's impressive." Anakin narrowed his eyes slightly, watching the interaction. There was history there, old, worn, but not hostile. Vet nudged Rex. "C'mon, boy, lighten up. This is a party." Rex gave her a sidelong glance. "I'm not boy, I'm Captain Rex. And I don't usually party when there's a war going on." "But there's always a war going on," Vet quipped. "So, come on. Just one drink." Rex sighed, pulled off his helmet, and joined her by the makeshift bar. Quinn approached Anakin and gave a stiff nod. "My lord, as surprising as the news was, I must extend my congratulations. I trust this won't interfere with your duties." Anakin turned slowly to face him. "No. But if it does, I'll still get the job done. And if you question me again, you'll find out why I'm not just another Sith." Quinn paled slightly. "Understood." Jessa watched the whole scene with quiet amusement. She approached Nox. "I never thought I'd see the day, but I'm happy for you. You've changed since we first met." Nox tilted her head. "Do you think that's a good thing?" Jessa smiled. "I think it's a dangerous thing. For everyone else." From the far end of the hold, Vet and Rex were now seated on a crate, talking closely, the tension between them thickening by the second. She leaned in, laughing at something he said. He gave a rare, full smile. Then she subtly reached out, touching his hand. He didn't pull away. Nox caught the movement and leaned into Anakin's side, whispering in his ear. "Looks like your captain's being seduced by a Twi'lek." Anakin smirked. "He deserves some happiness. Even if it comes with Leku and a smart mouth." She rested her head against his shoulder for a moment. "Thank you. For everything." His arm wrapped around her waist. "Let's get some air. I need to speak to you. Alone." They excused themselves, leaving the crew to their merriment. Scene shift, Anakin and Nox private conversation. They stepped into one of the Fury's observation decks, a small, dark chamber with a panoramic view of the stars beyond. The starlight cut across the floor in sharp lines. The vast emptiness of space always made the room feel sacred, eternal. Nox leaned against the railing, her eyes drifting. Anakin stood silently beside her, hands clasped behind his back, his cape brushing the floor. "You're too calm," Nox said softly, breaking the silence. "I have to be," Anakin replied. "If I let myself feel everything I want to feel right now, I'd probably tear this ship apart." She turned to him, concerned. "Because of the Jedi? Sidious? Vitiate? All of it," he said. "But mostly, you." She frowned. "What did I do? You almost died. You went into that temple alone. You fought a Darth who had been planning to steal your body for years. And you didn't tell me. I didn't want to burden you, she said, eyes lowering. You're not a burden, Nox. His voice hardened. You're my partner. My equal. I'm trying to build something real here. And that means I can't have you going behind my back thinking you're expendable. She stepped closer. I didn't think I was expendable. I thought I was necessary. That I had to do it. You're necessary, he said, stepping into her space, voice quiet but firm. To me. To this child. To our future. Her breath caught slightly. I saw what Sidious is willing to do. I saw Vitiate in the flesh. We're playing a game where gods are pieces on the board. I need to know you're with me. Always. I am, she whispered. I've always been. They stared at each other for a long beat. Then Anakin leaned in and kissed her slow, deep, anchoring. Her hands curled into his robes, holding on to him as though letting go would mean losing everything. Scene, the celebration aboard the Fury. The lounge aboard the Fury was alive with a rare, genuine warmth that cut through the cold steel halls and dark tones of imperial design. The crew had gathered, Vet had dimmed the lights, Jasa was lighting a few incense sticks she claimed helped with meditation, and Kemval, still half-possessed and muttering to himself, stood watchfully in a corner, devouring an entire roasted avian beast that no one remembered cooking. The smell was thick with spices and engine grease, and the tension that had defined the days before began to lift, even if only for a night. Andronikos kicked his boots up on the main hollow table, leaning back with a flask of Corellian fire whiskey. All right, so who's got the next story? He grinned, eyes half-lidded. I told mine. Flying through a minefield with a smuggler's daughter half-naked in the back seat counts as a damn good tale, if you ask me. You left out the part where you crashed, Vet called, already 2 drinks in, plucking olives from a glass. I heard about that from a slicer on Nar Shaddaa. You clipped a spice freighter and got shot at for a week. Details, Andronikos smirked. Still got the girl. Rex stood awkwardly at the edge of the room, arms folded, his clone trooper frame slightly too stiff for the relaxed air. His armor had been painted darker, mismatched, the blue markings long since scraped away and replaced with scuffed matte plating. Nox had worked with Anakin to forge the perfect cover story. Unknown region mercenary, worked for some lost warlord nobody could verify. The Republic, even the Sith, didn't have maps of where Rex supposedly came from. And the truth? Well, that was classified. Andronikos pointed his flask at him. So, unknown regions guy. You gonna loosen up or are you allergic to fun? Rex blinked, trying to decide if this was mockery or invitation. This is me loosened up. The room laughed. Even Jasa cracked a grin. You'll fit in just fine, Anakin said, stepping in fully now, his cloak discarded, tunic half unfastened, saber clipped loosely to his hip. He gave Rex a short nod. Thanks for watching things while I was out. Rex nodded back. It's what I do. Sir. Anakin arched an eyebrow. You know you don't have to sir me every time, right? Right. Anakin, Rex said, the name sounding foreign on his tongue. Andronikos leaned toward Vet and whispered, guy's either military or got a Sith Lord up his ass. Could be both. Vet smirked, whispering back, oh, he's military all right. From where, no one knows. But Anakin trusts him, and that's enough for me. Meanwhile, Nox walked in wearing a fresh black and silver robe with subtle embroidery that glowed faintly in the light, a high-collared design reminiscent of Kallig's ancient line. Her presence shifted the air, commanding, calm, proud. She gave, Jasa, a subtle nod, and the younger woman immediately stepped aside to let her pass. All right, Nox said, before the wine is gone and someone breaks the ship, I want to make one thing clear. She looked around the room, her gaze sharp but not hostile. I am not just here as a guest. I am here because I belong. My place is with Anakin now, and you should know that I would do anything to protect this crew and this ship. You are his people, and by extension, you are mine." There was a moment of silence. Then Vet raised her glass. "Well, that sounds like the closest thing to a toast we're getting from a Sith Lord, so, to Nox and Anakin. And may none of us get force-choked for putting our boots on the hollow table." Everyone cheered. Even Kemval gave a slow, thunderous grunt of approval. A little while later, while Andronikos tried to teach Jasa how to cheat at a game involving shock dice and a thermal detonator, it was safe, supposedly. Vet wandered toward the rear corridor. She stopped, turned, and caught Rex watching her. He quickly looked away, sipping his drink without any expression. Vet tilted her head. "You always stand like that? Like you're waiting for someone to shoot at you?" Rex glanced at her, tone deadpan. "Usually am." She smirked. "Well, relax. The only danger here is Jasa burning the lounge down trying to cook again." Rex chuckled. It was small, but real. Vet leaned closer, lowering her voice. "So, wanna see the ship's hidden compartments? I know where the captain keeps the real Corellian reserve." Rex arched a brow. "You trying to get me drunk?" She shrugged. "Maybe. You might loosen up and finally smile." He paused. Then nodded once. "Lead the way, pirate." Vet grinned and disappeared down the corridor, Rex following a step behind. Later, when the noise had died down and only the quiet hum of the ship remained, Anakin sat on the observation deck, looking out into space. Nox approached quietly, taking a seat beside him. The stars outside gleamed like scattered diamonds, distant and unknowable. For a while, they just sat. "You always stare like that when something's bothering you," Nox said gently. Anakin didn't answer at first. Then he spoke, voice low. "Vitiate. Sidious. The Jedi. The Sith. We're all moving pieces on a board I can't fully see yet. And now I've brought you into this mess." "I was already in it, Anakin," Nox replied, placing a hand on his. "You didn't bring me into anything I didn't choose." He looked at her, really looked. "You nearly died in that temple. And I lived." "You're pregnant?" Nox nodded. "I am." There was a pause. Anakin exhaled slowly. "It scares me. More than war, more than Sidious or Vitiate. The idea that I could lose you. That I might lose us." She leaned her head against his shoulder. "Then let's make a promise. Whatever storm comes, whatever madness the galaxy throws at us, we face it together. No secrets. No regrets." Anakin placed a hand on her stomach, his touch gentle, reverent. "You think the Sith Council will let this slide?" "No," she admitted. "But I don't care." He smiled faintly. "You've always been bold. And you've always been reckless." They both chuckled. "Tomorrow," she said, "we start again. But tonight, let's just be ourselves. Not lords. Not warriors. Just us." Anakin turned and kissed her, slow and unhurried. When they pulled apart, he whispered, "Just us." The lounge was alive with energy. The dimmed lighting of the Fury gave the room a relaxed atmosphere, the hum of the ship's systems blending with music playing from an old datapad hooked into the COMM port Andronikos doing, naturally. A heavy Corellian beat thumped under the surface as Vet showed off some slightly drunk dance moves in the center of the room. Jasa, reserved but smiling, leaned against the wall, sipping from a tall glass of glowing blue liquid. Even Quinn, ever the professional, stood in the corner nursing a drink he claimed was only for social optics. Rex sat across from the bar, a bottle of Mandalorian ale in hand. He was surrounded by a few curious crew members. Vet had just pulled him aside earlier with a sly grin and dragged him into a half-flirty interrogation about his mysterious past from the unknown regions. He played along well, keeping his tone dry and confident, masking decades of war behind the persona of a seasoned mercenary. No one questioned it. His presence alone radiated command. Andronikos raised his glass. I gotta say, I never thought I'd be on a Sith ship drinking with a warlord Jedi, a Sith Lord, and a guy who looks like a walking clone of half the Republic army. Rex narrowed his eyes slightly. Clone? Never heard that one before. Andronikos smirked, letting it hang. Relax, friend. You got a solid story. Unknown regions mercenary. I can buy it. Seen weirder. Just saying, you fight like a damn commando. Maybe better. Rex grinned just a little. Good observation. You'll live longer with instincts like that. Andronikos tossed back the rest of his drink and laughed. That's the hope. Vet came back, practically skipping, cheeks flushed from drink and joy. All right, I vote this is officially the best celebration we've had since I stopped being hunted by Hutts. Jessal looked over at her. What happened to your last celebration? Vet rolled her eyes. Someone got thrown out an airlock. Not me. But, still. It killed the mood. Just joking, this is the first celebration we had. Laughter filled the room. Anakin stood silently for a while, watching it all. Nox moved to stand beside him, brushing against his arm. You're quiet, she whispered. You usually take over the room by now. Anakin gave her a side glance and smiled faintly. I'm watching. This is the first time in weeks, maybe months, that I've seen the whole crew relaxed. Laughing. Smiling. You're allowed to be part of it too, she said softly. I know. He took a sip of his drink. But I wanted to enjoy seeing you happy more than I wanted to speak. She tilted her head and bumped her shoulder against his. Smooth. A beat passed. Then, Vet called out, all right. I think this celebration needs a proper ending. Rex and I are going to sneak off for a bit. She said it half loudly, clearly meaning for everyone to hear. Rex groaned. You realize that defeats the purpose of sneaking off, right? Vet grinned. I know. I just like making you uncomfortable. Andronikos let out a loud ha, and lifted his drink in their direction. Good luck, soldier boy. She bites. Rex chuckled and stood up, brushing off his armor. Wouldn't be the first time I survived something worse than a blaster bolt. Jessal's eyes widened, then narrowed suspiciously. Just don't make it awkward when we all see each other in the morning. C-3PO waddled in from the hallway, clean now, holding a tray of desserts. Oh dear, I hope this isn't a mating ritual. I've seen this before on Tatooine and it always ends with someone getting. 3PO, Anakin cut in, just leave the tray. Go, stand in the engine room or something. Oh. Very good, Master Skywalker. The droid did a half-spin and wandered off, muttering something about social protocol and malfunctioning decorum. As the laughter died down, Anakin leaned toward Nox. Come with me, he said softly. I want a moment alone. Just us. She nodded, smile fading into something deeper, gentler. Private quarters, just the two of them. The doors hissed closed behind them, cutting off the low thrum of music and laughter from the lounge. The chamber was quieter, lit only by the ambient blue glow of hyperspace flowing past the windows. Anakin stood in silence for a moment, watching the stars. Nox approached from behind, her arms wrapping around his midsection, resting her head on his back. It's strange, she said. Feeling this, peace. We fought so hard for it. We always knew it wouldn't last forever, he said. But we earned this moment. Didn't we? He turned to face her, eyes softened, but still sharp with thought. Yeah. We did. She reached up and brushed a strand of hair from his face. You're thinking too much again. I always think too much, he admitted. And right now, I'm thinking about you. About us. This child. Her hand moved to her abdomen, protective instinct mixed with pride. I never thought I'd feel this way, she whispered. That I'd want something more than power. He placed a hand over hers, steady and warm. We're both changing. She met his gaze. Are you scared? Terrified, he admitted. But not of fatherhood. Not of you. I'm scared of what might try to take this from us. And I will not let it happen. She smiled, eyes glowing faintly with the force. Then let them come. We'll burn them all together. A long silence fell, only the hum of the ship to fill the space between them. Finally, Anakin broke it. We'll need to be careful now. More than ever. You're not just a Sith Lord. You're the future mother of my child. And if anything happens to you... She pressed a finger to his lips. Then don't let it. I've survived worse. And I've got you. He pulled her close, pressing his forehead to hers. We'll make it. I'll make sure of it. And outside the window, stars stretched endlessly into the void, promising both danger and hope.